favor of Common Core. Because Bush, as you know, is a statist who supports Common Core. Trump opposes it. Trump said America needs him to beat China and keep the crime and drugs from over the border outside of the U.S. And he also named Islamic terrorism for what it is, and he said Islamic terrorism eating up large portions of the Middle East. So now ISIS has the oil, and what they don't have, Iran has. Let's play the ISIS piece, guys. Donald Trump on ISIS as opposed to the phony Republicans. Listen.
So now ISIS has the oil, and what they don't have, Iran has. Years ago, I said, and I love the military, and I want to have the strongest military that we've ever had, and we need it more now than ever. But I said, don't hit Iraq, because you're going to totally destabilize the Middle East. Iran is going to take over the Middle East. Iran and somebody else will get the oil. And it turned out that Iran is now taking over Iraq. Think of it. Iran is taking over Iraq.
That came out of my 2006 book, Liberalism is a Mental Disorder. Now, again, written and actually published in 2005. Again, I want to thank his advisors for reading my book and seeing that I said exactly the same thing. In fact, I wrote exactly those words, or almost those exact words. I'm not accusing Mr. Trump of lifting them. I'm saying, thank God that my ideas are being promoted on the world stage, because I feared that. In fact, I said that in the chapter where I said more patent and less patent leather. Remember that one? Remember that one? More patent and less patent leather? Chapter 1 of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, written so many years ago, 10 years ago. God, I've been at this a long time. So you would think that of all the bestsellers, someone's read these books. You'd think they've had wide circulation. And so when I wrote more patent, less patent leather, I wrote this. Donald Trump just said it, but in 2005, I published it in my book. I'll quote myself. I believe the Iraq War will be recorded as one of the greatest of military miscalculations. And before you dismiss me as a flag-burning pacifist, let me be clear. Team Bush won Operation Iraqi Freedom in a most spectacular fashion. Using sophisticated high-tech weapons, our courageous warriors proved once again that they are the brightest and the best soldiers on the planet, period. Their enormous superiority on the battlefield was unmatched, a lesson not missed by the world community. And then I went on, and I said, so why do I insist the historians and the cadets at West Point will look back on the war in Iraq as a gigantic miscalculation? Bush won the initial conflict in a brilliant display of strength. However, he struggled to maintain the peace in Iraq because he didn't have an overall strategic plan to eliminate the pockets of resistance and establish immediate control of the streets. Fighting a politically acceptable pacification does not work. And then I went on, and I wrote other things in this book about Iraq and Iran. And I said that this could turn out to be one of the greatest military blunders in history, because if it's wrong, Iran will be the big winner. And so there I say to you again, I've seen things years ago that people are seeing and saying now, and I see things now that people will be saying in 10 or 20 years. Yes, indeed. Supersizing Iran is what I called it. I said it could be that Bush's war will have inadvertently created a super Iran. How? Operation Iraqi Freedom is in effect creating a Shiite nation, Iraq, next door to another Shiite nation, Iran, who happens to be a founding member of the Axis of Evil. Shiite Shmiite, you say. What's this got to do with you? Plenty, I wrote. There is the possibility that Shiite Iraq will ally itself with Iran, a nation ruled by Shiite Ayatollahs, and unify against us, which means that the hornet's nest of radical Islam may actually increase in size rather than, as Bush had hoped, shrink. In sheeple terms, that means we might have just supersized our terrorists' base. 2005, I ended that chapter by saying, we may have liberated the Shiites, but Americans are still infidels to them. You hear that one? We're still infidels to all of them. Make no mistake about it. That was my great book, Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, published so many years ago in 2005. Well, here we are today in 2015. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years since I wrote those prophetic words. Well, what words do I have for you today? We now have men posing as women, saying that because they feel like a woman, they're a woman. We now have white people posing as blacks and not only getting away with saying because they feel like they're black, they are black, but then being celebrated in the media as such. And of course, in the universities, this pollution has become the norm. This mental pollution, this disease of liberalism, this twisting of reality has made nothing real. Everything is what you want to make it. If it feels good, do it. Why not do it? And the road has led to this. That's right. Let's take a caller or two on the Savage Nation. Everyone who gets on the show this hour gets a free copy of my great novel, Countdown to Mecca, for Father's Day. And I suggest you rush to the bookstores today, tomorrow, or the next day and buy one for your dad. There's no greater gift for a man than this testosterone-pounding book, Countdown to Mecca. It's actually a book that reads like a boxing match. It's so exciting. People tell me I can't believe it. WGAW. Thomas, welcome to the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to say that this Rachel Danzel is a living example of the evolution of the liberal lie. It starts with transgender. You're born a man, but you identify as a woman. Now she's born white and identifies as black. And the question is, where does it end? I'm certainly not surprised by this idea. I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner. Why hasn't anybody tried this before? Or is it just now it's perfect timing with all this racial unrest in our country?
Well, I'm sorry, but this is a very sensitive issue. When you have a president who is biracial and only identifies as a black president, what does that tell you?
I don't know. I can never make head.
Well, I do know. I know exactly what I know. I do know. I know exactly what he's done. He's used race to get ahead. Obama has used his racial identity to get ahead. And I'm quoting him when I say that. Don't attack me for his own words. In his autobiography, he wrote that he never identified as a black radical when he was young. Never. He was raised as a lily-white, spoiled boy in Honolulu by two white grandparents who doted on him. You know that, don't you?
I do know this.
Okay. And he said that when he left Occidental College, he was still not identifying with the black radical movement. It was when he went to Columbia U. He said that he identified as a black radical with all of the other radicals, the white ones in particular, that he started to get the attention that he always deserved and always wanted, rather. And that is when he became radicalized. And that's when he identified with the black liberation movement. Read his own autobiography if you don't believe me.
It's the same thing that this racial woman's doing. But the question is, where does it end? Where does it end?
Well, where does it end? It ends when we get a guy like Trump in the presidency who doesn't mince words, and all the liars drop off like the fleas that they are. All the liars drop off the body politic like the fleas that they are, and we stop listening to these frauds. It'll take 10, 15 years to fix what this man has done to this country. I am sending you Countdown to Mecca to read for Father's Day. I want to know why Dolezal's not been prosecuted by the FBI or a state agency for impersonation. I'd like to know why. And I'd also like to know what you think about a white boy listening to this show applying for a scholarship that is limited only to people of African-American heritage and checking African-American on the application. And then when the boy wins, I'd like to see what happens when they find out he's white, when he steps up on the stage to get the scholarship for blacks. Do you think he'll be treated to a visit to the Today Show? 855-400-7282, FTL in Florida, Fort Lauderdale. Jane, go ahead. You're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Yes, I wanted to say that you are right on, and you speak such prophetic words. And the connection between the Pope, who is a fraud, I agree with you 100%, and Obama that they are pursuing a one-world government, that the reason why they are flooding this nation, that we're having an invasion of illegals, is because these people don't know the Bible, and they're basically Christians following the Pope, and they're just going to take over like that. That's their plan.
Well, everything that this Pope is doing is in alignment with the radical left around the world. It's in accord with Obama's New World Order vision. It's in accord with George Soros's vision for the dystopia that is awaiting us. This man has to be challenged because I have never seen a Pope more political than this in my life, and we in America have a clear boundary between politics and religion, don't we? Does the Pope not understand how offensive he is being here in the United States of America? We're not a bunch of ignoramuses from the third world who buy it lock, stock, and barrel because he has a white robe and a big airplane.
Amen. Michael Savage, you are right.
I'm sending a copy of Countdown to Mecca to you for Father's Day. I hope there's a man in your family. If not, you can read it, madam, as a Father's Day gift to a woman. Many of you are calling about Mr. Trump, and you're hoping that he's running, sincerely running to win, not to upset the Republican ticket. And we're all cynical enough to question anybody right now after what Obama's done to us. After what Obama has done to us, and because of phonies on every level of government and politics, we have every right to ask ourselves, is Mr. Trump running to win, or is he running as a spoiler along the lines of Ross Perot? We can do that without insulting him. He likes to be blunt. We like to be blunt. And I hope Mr. Trump comes on the show. And if he does, I will ask him that. I will not try to trip him up. I'm stating it right now. I'm sure his assistant wrote it down. And I'm asking him again, how can you demonstrate to the cynics out there, the skeptics rather, who fear that you may be running as a spoiler to split the Republican ticket, Mr. Trump? How can you reassure them? Because if he can do that, he's going to win. I'll tell you right now. The millions of voters who will not vote otherwise, they're not going to vote for a Jeb Bush. They're not going to vote for the weasel. What's his name? I forget his name, the weasel. He's gone. He's so irrelevant. Cruz the weasel. He's not voting. They're not voting for the ice cream man, who is basically a pet on a chain of Larry Ellison. They're not voting for them. They're going to stay home. They're not going to vote at all. They'd come out and vote for Trump if capital I, they know he's really running to defeat Hillary Clinton. Now, the fact of the matter is, and this has been disclosed, is that Mr. Trump has given money to the Clinton Library. That's not unusual unto itself. People do that at a high level of society. But that does not mean that he is working with Hillary Clinton. I want to be very clear about that. We have to take him on his word. However, I think he has to answer the following question. Who would you choose as a running mate? Would you consider Dr. Carson? Who would you choose? And I'd really like to see the answer to that question. That's the one I would ask. If he chooses Ben Carson, we'll know it's for real. If he says he will not run as a third-party candidate, then I know it's for real. If, on the other hand, I hear he's going to set up his own party, I'm sorry. Then it's Hillary Clinton, and that's the end of the road. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust to protect my wealth. Call 800-BUY-COIN. Well, we've gone from the email to the she-mail in one administration, and now we have Mr. Donald Trump saying he wants to be president. What I'm about to play for you has not yet aired. He gave an interview today with George Staphylococcus, who I thought had been embarrassed. I thought he was off the air, but apparently Staphylococcus is still operating. And I don't know whether Donald's answer to whether he would choose Oprah Winfrey as a running mate was facetious or real. I pray to God he was just trying to fend off Staphylococcus from his clothing. But you got to listen to this, because if he's serious, oh boy, are we really being duped. Listen.
Back in 1999, when you were thinking of running as the Reform Party candidate, you told Larry King that you'd consider Oprah for vice president.
I like Oprah. What can I tell you?
Still on your short list?
Yeah, she's great. She's talented. She's a friend of mine. She's a good person. I've been on her show. In fact, I was on her show last week. She said, could I be on her show with the whole family? I like Oprah. I mean, is that supposed to be a bad thing? I don't think so.
So when you think about who the kind of people you're going to run with?
I think Oprah would be great. I'd love to have Oprah. I think would win easily, actually.
So we don't know if that's a facetious answer, because if that's what he's thinking, it's over. That's all. It's over. Then it's all a sham. Simple. It's over. Then the whole thing was just a garbage deal. I'm sorry. It's not worth the good lettuce on the buffet line to put up with this when we've been put up with this liar in the White House and the damage he's done to us. I want Mr. Trump to be clear. We'll vote for you, and the millions of people who are fed up in this country will vote for you, but we don't want you to be a spoiler for Hillary Clinton, and you cannot pick Oprah Winfrey as your running mate, because you're not going to get 10 votes with her as a running mate. Okay? We don't need another liberal in the White House. You want to win? Pick Ben Carson as a VP. Pick somebody conservative. Pick somebody we know we can count on and trust. Not another TV construct. That's it for the Savage Nation.